Wild Hearts.
Hearts. Yes.
Okay.
It's a game that came out about like just under 2 weeks ago. Very Monster Hunter-esque for those that haven't played it yet. You'll see the gameplay on the screen. But first impressions, Albert, how do you feel about it?
It is rough.
I agree.
That's
It's
the way he likes it.
just the way I don't like my video games.
So, how many hours do you have into it right now?
I think 15.
Wow.
I think you have more than me. I think I only have like 7, maybe 8.
Mm-hmm.
And performance-wise, like the game is just it's lacking so much right now. Like it's launch date started off pretty badly. They released some patches recently for PC. I guess we should also say that we're playing on PC.
But I'm playing on EA, straight from EA. You're playing from Steam.
Yeah, and regardless, it's just been there's a lot of frame droppage.
It's inconsistent.
So inconsistent.
It runs very poorly compared to Monster Hunter. If we're doing a direct comparison to that, or Dauntless, or any other Monster Hunter type game.
Yeah. And because of that, it directly affects its like gameplay. Like having to dodge and avoid monster attacks while frames are dropping
And managing the camera.
and managing the camera is not fun.
Right.
Not fun at all.
I decided to not even use the lock-on camera because of how badly it works.
What's it do?
It keeps the monster in your sights
Okay.
instead of free rotating the camera around.
Yeah.
There's an option to have like in other games, like maybe Spider-Man or Legend of Zelda, you can have a lock-on target where your character and your camera will focus on that target.
And you rotate around this and
object. Your character might rotate around the object, and the camera will help you keep that in your vision.
But this is done poorly.
This is done poorly in this game.
I don't think it's like necessarily the game in general. It's just like the performance of the game right now in its state is what's causing a lot of issues.
Yep.
In Monster Hunter, in most monster hunting games, you have the monster when it's like in its like regular form and in like an enraged form. And when the monsters in this game, they're called kimono, for those that don't know. When they're enraged, frames drop at least like 10 frames per second, yeah. So having to deal with frame drops while the monster is like at its peak of like strength and aggression is not fun at all.
Yeah.
So other than that, how do you feel about the gameplay?
The story is decent. You're a you're a person, a traveling person with whatever reason you want to decide you're traveling for. You end up meeting somebody that helps you get your Komodo hunting power, basically, and you end up at a village where they need your help. So at least the story there is something purposeful.
Yeah.
Sounds like Monster Hunter.
I mean, it's Monster Hunter, yeah.
It's generic enough, but it's a story. It's not something vague that you're not there for no reason.
Yeah.
I think what I enjoy about the gameplay enough is it does enough to set itself apart from Monster Hunter.
It does.
With you have like these things called karakuri, I think that's what they're called, and it's just basically like Fortnite in a way, when Fortnite had like building, and you can build during your hunts and use what you build to gain an advantage on the monster. One thing that I kind of don't like about the game is Monster Hunter shows you new equipment, like if they add like the clutch claw or the wire bugs, like they show you how to use those very early on, whereas this one, it just kind of happens randomly. Like what are they called, the fusion karakuri? You're just in a hunt, and
it will do a quick time event for you to immediately teach you about something brand new, instead of going through more of a tutorial where it's in a controlled and slower setting. You're in the middle of something, and then here's some buttons in the middle. In the middle of your screen, which button to press while something is attacking you. So you might
Forget.
not forget, but like be under a lot of stress
Yeah.
already.
You don't learn good that way under stress.
Right.
And the thing is like, so there's a kimono called the Wild Tusk, and that's like one of the very hard ones, like early on.
It's a very big dude.
It's a
Big
boar.
pig.
Yeah.
Oh, it's dude. I was like, it's a person.
It's a big boar.
It's a, yeah.
And it introduces it. That's like the first one that introduces you to these like fusion ones, and it like shows you how to create a wall. And up until then, like I was just getting dominated by this thing. Like I was dying,
Yeah.
and it was just
You're
not
only,
a lot
yeah.
of
You
fun.
only have boxes.
Yeah. And so you have it, then out of nowhere it shows you like, oh, you could do this, and I was just like, well, that would have been nice to know after I died 2 times before that. So
Yeah, it's inconsistent. And when I was playing with Jacob, whoever is hosting would get the QuickTime event, but the other person wouldn't.
Oh, that sucks.
And until you learn that, you can't use it. So even though you know about it, you can't activate it. Like, outside of the game. But until like we replay it and then one of us hosts it, then that's when the other person will be able to use it.
So you got to swap host.
Yeah, we have to redo the mission after we
Ah.
finish it, and then the other person can learn it.
That's kind of lame.
And it's kind of random when we can learn it too, like you were saying, John, where like, oh, finally I learned how to build this wall, or finally I learned how to use this giant hammer out of the sky.
and there's some more actually.
There is, yes.
Yeah, so it's very, very frustrating to like have that as a tutorial. And while you're doing this QuickTime event, it sets everything up for you nicely. Like you could be running away from the monster and it sets it up nicely for you. But like when you actually have to use it real time, you have to make sure you're putting it in the same spot.
Yeah, the right
So
orientation.
you have to like stop what you're doing. And the building is for as enjoyable as it is and like how interesting as it is, it's
It's not well done.
it's not well done yet. Yeah.
Like
So-
if the terrain is slightly sloped in the wrong way, you can't do it.
It's
if-
very specific.
I don't think it's very specific, but there are a decent amount of conditions where you can't complete what you're trying to do.
Makes me
outside-
want to play this game. No, I'm
It-
kidding.
outside of that, like how do you feel about the weapons that, because as another thing that's great about Monster Hunter is it gives you all the weapons at the beginning, and you can use those weapons however you see fit. You could choose whichever ones you want. This one, it gives you like a couple, and then you have to unlock some later on. But out of the weapons that you have so far, what do you?
I do have all 8 now, but at least how they lock 3 of them behind part of the story, I don't really like it too much. How they implement it into the story is decent. I don't know. I guess you're not there yet, but it's an interesting way how they put it into the story. But I'd rather have all 8 up front.
Me too.
Give me them all.
Yeah, give me them all. Let me try them all.
Yeah, we should be able to try them all and just use them at the very beginning.
Yeah, usually the first chapter in these types of games is more of the tutorial.
Yeah.
Where you're learning how to fight different types of monsters of varying sizes with different abilities. So that's where I would like to learn all of the weapons if I wanted to, but they do lock you behind only 5 versus all 8.
Can you name all 8 of them?
Off
Are
the top
they-
of my head,
Are they like very specific names or
I
describe
can
them?
use generic names. So there's
Yeah.
like a katana, regular
Yeah.
sword.
Yeah.
There's a big sword called a nodachi. It's like a great sword.
Yeah.
The maul,
You have a maul, which is like a giant hammer.
a hunting bow.
You have a
Hama.
hunting
A hammer.
a hama. Yeah, you have a hunting bow, and then you have a umbrella. I forgot the Japanese term that they use, but it's a umbrella with blades at the end of the I don't know.
It might just
the
be
fan.
called the bladed karakuri. Like,
No, bladed something.
oh,
It starts with an H, I think.
I don't know.
You have those 5.
There's no guns at all in this game? Just blades?
Later on, you have three more weapons that you unlock. There's a cannon, like a big cannon that you carry.
Okay.
There is a chain blade,
And then there's the karakuri staff, right?
and then there's a staff, like a bow staff that transforms.
It transforms into like four or
Five.
five different weapons.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Like nunchuck style weapon?
I think that might be an option. Like nunchucks, but with blades on the ends of them is one of them.
Blade chucks.
Yeah, blade chucks.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So far, I want to continue playing it just because it's like it's interesting enough to want to keep playing. It's just like early on, it's just very frustrating how little they've introduced you to, like having quick time events for learning these like different fusions, and it's taking a while. It's something that you have to really want to grind for with all the like performance issues and. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least the slow part of introduction, I think that I'm okay with that. I'm used to that now with at least the other Monster Hunting games that we've played, where you kind of get the weaker monsters up front, and you get faced with one wall, quote unquote, where most people would die to a couple of times before learning how to play the game for real. So I think you'll get to that at the end of Chapter 2.
Another thing I wanted to talk about is like. Online play. When we played the other day,
oh yes,
it wasn't like horrible, but I mean at that point in time it was still
that's also brand new.
It was still brand new, so there's still performance issues
and server issues.
I played today when
this morning,
yeah, and I just played with randoms and it was so bad.
The performance of everything?
The performance and everything.
That's
like
too bad.
The monster was skipping around. We were fighting the spine glider, the little rodent that shoots water and has like the horn.
Yep.
And like it was shooting its water to like create one of those like pillars.
Yep.
Where it was shooting the water and where the pillar was coming up were completely different locations.
Yep.
It was like skipping around, like it was doing like its little sidestep.
Yeah,
it would do side steps like 4 times to the left and then 4 times to the right before it would even attack. It was really bad, and it's just kind of for the price point that this game was at. It's very disappointing, like how poorly optimized it is in one of the areas that it's supposed to like shine in. Because monster hunting games in general are supposed to be with friends, with other people, and so
at least how this was marketed.
Yeah, so how it's lacking in that, and maybe it was just because like it's just randoms from whoever knows where. So I'll have to try again with you later, but
I have the same experience with Jacob.
Really?
Yep. I'll record gameplay if I play today.
So yeah, it was just
it's the same experience, and I think I guess if we're talking about during a hunt, it's. Yeah, the monsters and how they interact with the terrain is pretty bad too. Like you said, they'll skip around unnaturally, of course. I think monsters move too fast in this game to properly like walk on the terrain. They jitter around because they're trying to figure out where to place the monster on ground instead of in the air when they're where they shouldn't be. And it's just vibrating around, trying to see if they can squeeze in this corner or next to this tree, and they have trouble with that.
I think another thing that Monster Hunter does, if I'm not mistaken, your brother had said before that monsters in Monster Hunter attack a location, and I feel like this one attacks players because they want to force you to use like the karakuri, but at the same time, like there are just times where you can't. So it's very hard to avoid certain attacks from monsters.
Yeah, I have to get used to the timing because I don't know. I'll explain to Jesse and the audience too. But monsters will I'll have a clip of this for you. But a monster will unnaturally translate or rotate their body without actually moving. But the game will rotate the monster to always match you until they attack.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets inconsistent with other monster hunting games.
Like Wild Tusk, the boar that we were talking about earlier.
The dude, yeah.
A boar is supposed to be very straightforward in its attacks because it's, that's just how it is.
It has 4 legs on the ground.
4 legs on the ground, charging forward. But this one, like, it will charge at you and then, like, slightly curve when you move. Like, so it makes it harder to avoid. Or it does this attacks where it's, like, stands up on its legs.
Yeah.
And then it, like, continues to, like, follow you around on its hind legs before it falls down. So
right. And it's not the monster, like, moving its legs to turn.
No, it's not. It's just it's rotating the actual model.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It looks silly.
And so when you're fighting alone and the monster's like either focused on you or your little helper, mostly on you, like it can be very, very frustrating. And
Right.
yeah.
I mean, the nice thing, at least with compared to Monster Hunter, is I can dodge things more easily because they're more forgiving there. But
Yeah.
it's still frustrating when it looks weird from previous experiences.
It's just harvest the stand picking up the monster. You haven't got to that part yet.
Yeah, another thing that we should talk about is the just
Loading
screens. Yeah, there was I'll put the gameplay on the screen at this
Yes.
time, but there was one I guess you can't even call it one cutscene, but there was like one part of the game very early on where you went into a cutscene, and then it stopped, and you went into a loading screen.
It's black.
Yeah, and then it went to the extra part of that cutscene, and then it stopped, and then it went to another
Cutscene.
Another cutscene.
It loaded twice to show a 5-second clip. I was waiting for John to, because I already played it, so I was waiting for John to experience it. So I was laughing already before it even happened.
It was so bad. I forgot all about that.
Because they load that middle 5-second clip to showcase a monster making a noise, like roaring, and
Then they go back to the conversation.
Yeah, by loading another cutscene. It's just lots of those.
That's crazy.
It was just funny to watch.
Yeah. How do you feel about the overall aesthetic of the game? Like, it's a Monster Hunter game, so how do you feel about the monsters? In general?
Looks good. If I can get 60 frames a second consistently,
and actually have decent graphics, I think one thing that we didn't establish is we're both also playing on the lowest possible settings for
to get a decent maybe 40 frames a fight
That's
during
not
a fight.
good. Not good.
yeah. But overall the monsters are very interesting.
Yeah.
I like the whole aspect of how they're blended in with their environment. They take from their environment. They're more natural as opposed to Monster Hunter monsters that are just all just wyverns and dragons,
bears.
Yeah. So I do think the monsters in this game are really interesting, and I want to keep playing to see some of them. The game just needs to be optimized at this point.
Right. I think what I was reading is that at the moment there are 8 monsters, and then past that is endgame where they just have variants of those 8 monsters.
Which is okay.
It's a decent amount. It's not a ton though, but I can see them obviously creating a lot more monsters from Japanese or Chinese lore that look very ancient but also realistic at the same time.
Yeah. Overall rating of the game on your first impression, what would you say?
The way the game is right now, first impression wise, probably a 4. I think the
Out of
main
10?
thing is everything is during a hunt, and my experience during hunt is pretty poor.
Yeah. So that's a 4 out of 10, right?
Yeah, 4 out of 10.
I would also probably give it a 4 out of 10 as well. Just it's very hard to enjoy the game right now with poor performance and monsters targeting you. It's hard to dodge attacks when they're targeting you.
Right.
And have frame drops.
I think I can get used to how the monsters target me, but everything else around that during a fight is what defines my experience for playing these types of games.
Yeah. Would you recommend people buying this game?
Nah, not yet. Not as it is.
Me either.
How much is it?
Right now, most games are what target price is
It's $70 now.
This game is
Wow.
$70, but most games are $60. So it's $10 more, which is pretty
For 10 frames less?
I would say, yeah.
for way less than 10 frames.
Yeah.
I get close to my limit for Monster Hunter.
$70 for
$70 is not worth it.
that's a lot. It wouldn't pass my burrito test.
No, I mean, yeah, new games are expensive now, so
Yeah.
AAA games.
All right, well, share, follow the YouTube channel. We're out.
Subscribe.
Bye.